Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. Today we're doing a culling. I made a culling video about 4 or 5 months ago where I culled 50 games from my collection. I got rid of 50 games out of it. And since that time I've collected more and more games, and I think it's time for me to do another culling. Big culling, not as big as last time. I've got I think 34 different games. I'm debating getting rid of. Most of them I'm going to get rid of. There's like 3 or 4 in this list over here that I'm thinking about. I'm going to try 2 more times and see if they deserve to stay or should they go. I'll talk about them when I get to them. Now, what I'm going to do with these games when I get rid of them, I very seldom ever sell any board games. Very seldom. I usually give them to friends or use them as giveaways for my Zappapalooza board game event that I run, and that's coming up in, I think we might be doing that in January or February. Not quite sure yet. But last time when I made this video, I talked about a couple games that I was going to try and play one more time and see if they're going to stay. I did do that, and I decided on keeping 2 of those games. I'll talk about those quick. And the first one is Village Green. Now this is a game that I enjoy solo more than multiplayer, and in this game you are going to have sort of this grid that you're going to be putting these, I think they're trees, into, and on the top row is these scoring cards, and on the side are these scoring cards, and you're going to be putting the trees in between those, in the middle there. And you know, your row cards are going to score for that row's objectives along with that column objective. It's a really neat game, a fast solo game that I enjoyed, and that's why I kind of changed my mind. It's going to stay in my collection for a little bit longer. It'll probably eventually leave, but for now it's still getting played here and there, so I'll keep this one. And the other one I decided to keep was a purely solo game. This is Cristiano. This was one that I was for sure probably going to get rid of last time, but I decided I would try it one more time because I'd heard people who like those short solo games, which I like short solo games, will enjoy this one. And I played it a couple times, and I was like, nah, it's not really for me. But then, you know, I did that culling video. I decided to give it one more play. Then I played it again. Then I played it again. Then I played it again. It has become a regular, like, late night game for me. One that if I got 15 minutes before bed that I want to do something that's not too terribly hard or difficult to do, this is the game I'm going to be pulling up. So it's kind of become a regular in my solo gaming world. So let's get to the actual games that I am going to be culling in this video. The first 2 are easy ones for me to get rid of because they're basically one-time plays. First is Detective, Bloody Red Roses. Now this is I just reviewed this on the channel. This is a mystery murder. You're trying to solve a mystery murder. You have this deck of cards. You're going through trying to solve the mystery murder. And, I mean, it's a mystery murder. It's once you play it once, there's not really a reason to keep it again. This is one that I did enjoy, but I even talked about in the video. This was $20 for this. I don't think this is a $20 game, especially considering you play it once and then basically you get rid of it. But I'll give it to some friends and have them try it and see if they enjoyed it and have them give it along as well. So if it's one that I can give along, maybe then it's worth it to give to other people. But yeah, for a one-time playthrough, I don't think it was worth the $20. The next one is very similar to that, and this is one of the games in the Unlock series. This is an escape room in a box. And I like this one more than the Detective. So, and this was like, I think I got this for $6 or something like that. Very cheap. So, and this one took longer than the other one as well. The other one was like 30 minutes. And then I was through it. This one took us a little bit longer. It's supposed to take 60 minutes, but it took us probably close to 2 hours. We weren't doing very good in this. But I enjoyed this one quite a bit more than the other one. So if you were going to pick one between these 2, uh, unlock is pretty good. So those are easy ones because they're, kind of one-time playthrough games. I'll talk about 2 games now that I'm getting rid of solely because the apps. And the first one is Hey, That's My Fish. And this is a neat little game. So I put rubber bands on all my little games just to keep them closed. This kind of neat little game where you're moving your fish around this board that's made out of hexagons that are ice. You're moving your penguins around, and when you leave a spot, that tile goes away, goes into your collection. And the tiles have a certain amount of fish on them. And yeah, I really like the game, but I play the app quite a bit. I play the board game hardly ever. So I'm not going to keep a game that I'm going to break out once every couple years, but I'm going to play the app all the time. So yeah, a good game, one that I like, but I would recommend the app. Same thing for this next game. And this one is a very popular 2-player game. This is Jaipur. And this is kind of like this, I don't know how you would describe this here. It's a set collection game, but you decide when you're going to sell your set, and how many cards of that set you sell at a time is going to give you some extra bonus points. Very popular 2-player game. Very good game, I might add. I enjoy this game a lot. But again, I play the app a ton. I play this actual physical board game not a lot. This is not going to get broken out very often for myself. I just like to play it on my phone when I'm standing in line somewhere or I'm waiting for food or whatever. So yeah. Next 2 are roll and write games that are based on board games that I really like. The first is Lost Cities Roll and Write. Of course, based on the game Lost Cities, which is a 2-player card game where you're kind of taking these cards and putting them in ascending order on your side of the board, trying to score as many points. That has the same concept as this, except this one is completely dice-based. You're going to roll 6 dice. 3 of them are colored or have colors, and 3 have numbers. You're going to choose 1 number and 1 color to put on and mark that slot on your sheet, and the other players around the table get to choose the other colors. I gave this a pretty low rating when I reviewed it, and I think it's because I compare it to the actual game. The actual Lost Cities card game I really like. Very strategic card game. This one is very luck-based because it's dice. You're either going to get the dice you need or you're not. That's how it kind of goes. So I like it a lot less than the regular game. I would never pick that roll and write over the actual game. Next, we have one that's based on Biblios, a auction game that I really like. And this is Biblios, Quill, and Parchment. And yeah, Biblios is, like I said, an auction game that I've really enjoyed over the years. And when they announced this roll and write, I was pretty excited about it, especially that it came out with a solo game. I've played the solo game, and I did not like the solo game. And it kind of just sat on my shelf for the last 3 or 4 months now, because I didn't want to break it out again and try the multiplayer game. So this is one of them that I'm going to try again, and I'm going to try the multiplayer game to see if I like it. But I'm assuming I'm not going to like it as much as the regular one, so I don't see a reason to keep both Biblios and the roll and write version of Biblios when I like the regular better. Kind of like with Lost Cities. But I will be trying it again just to make sure. I don't want to get rid of it and then regret it later when people are like, oh, the multiplayer game is so good. Alright, now we're going to these other games. I'm going to start with some small games and then work my way up. First, we have Flea, which is a small card game in the Fast Forward series by Friedman Fries. And there is just a deck of cards in here. And there's a very specific order that these cards are put into the deck. And there's no actual rules for the game to start out with, because you start out the game and you reveal a card and then it'll give you rules. And basically the rule is you're fleeing from this monster, and this monster is going to come out and you're going to have 4 characters that you're controlling. I played this game solo. It's probably better as multiplayer. But you're going to have these 4 characters, and there's going to be this monster that's going to attach to one of them. And your goal is for, like, I think it's the starting player or the active player to never have the monster on them or something similar to that. You're fleeing. So you have these cards that have come out in a very specific order that you're going to have to play very specifically in order to flee the monster. And if you mess up and the monster catches you, you reset everything and try it again. So I don't know, there's probably 50 some cards in here, and you have to play every one of those cards correctly in order to beat this like scenario like thing. In theory, I should love this game. It's a puzzle game, but yeah, I liked it in theory way more than I actually liked the game. I've never actually beaten the game because after I played it I think 8 times, I gave up. I wasn't having that much fun with it. So yeah, it's a game that I thought I would like, but just ended up not being for myself. Next, we have Ninja Tyson, or however you pronounce this game. I have no clue. Tyson. This is a 2-player rock, paper, scissors game where you're going to be moving these characters on your side of the board. And whenever you meet other characters from the other player's team, there's this rock, paper, scissors mechanic that eliminates one or both of the characters. It's interesting, but not enough for me to replay it or have it come back out on to the table. That's what a lot of these are, that, you know, a lot of these are good games, but when you have a lot of games, the game has to be memorable and has to do something unique almost for you to break it out again. Next game, we have Senshi. This is a game where you're going to have a ton of these stacks of chips out in front, and you are going to either take those chips and put them in your hand, or you're going to take a chip and put it onto your board, which will then score stuff, and it'll kind of have this cascading effect. And I played this, it's very fast. I played this, I think, 4 times in a row, to just when I first learned it. Played it 3 or 4 times in a row, and it's fine, but it's not memorable. Even right now, I'm having trouble remembering exactly how everything works. Yeah, I remember when I was playing it, after I played it, I'm like, yeah, that's probably leaving the collection. One of those that, yeah, it's a good game, fine, but not a lot of replay value for myself. Alright, here's one that I actually don't like at all. Here's Roll for It. I can see people who would enjoy this, though. This is a very simple dice rolling game. You're going to have all these dice. You're going to roll them, and you have all these goals that are out here that you're trying to roll those specific dice. And when you do, you get that card and you get those points. If you like very, very simple games, you can teach this game in 30 seconds. If you like simple games, if you like dice games, this might be for you. I did not like this game at all, but I can see some people might like it. And so I'll find those people, and I'll give them this to them. I will find you, and you will play this game. Next is a game that I thought I was going to hate, but it was much better than I had anticipated. This is the PopTarts game, Kellogg's PopTarts game. And I don't remember a ton of it, but I remember that you are trying to manipulate these Pop-Tarts that are laid out in a board in a line, and you're trying to either put them in a freezer or put them in the microwave. One thing that this game taught me is that apparently people put Pop-Tarts in the freezer to have them cold. I've never had a cold Pop-Tart before. This game made me realize, hey, maybe I should put Pop-Tarts in the freezer. I'll try them. But yeah, it's much better than I thought it would be. I thought it'd be just a garbage game. I kind of got it as a gag, because all these games are coming out that, there's cereal games and stuff like that are coming out that are just trash usually. But this was better than I thought, but it's going to leave the collection. Oh, next we have a simple cooperative card game called The Game. This is one that I'm going to play a couple more times. I enjoy this one. Uh, Not like a ton. It's not one of my favorites, but you have these numbers of cards. You know, I think it goes from 1 to 100, and you have to cooperatively with your friends lay the cards in the correct order. It kind of is in that same realm of the mind, but it's a good game. The reason why I'm going to get rid of it is because there's a game called Ohanami that's very similar to this, but it's competitive, that I enjoy way, way more than this. I would rate this like a 6.5, where Ohanami I have like a 7, maybe 7.5, one that I really like. So I don't see a reason to keep both of them when they do close to the same thing. All right, next, Trash Pandas. Now this is a simple push your luck style game where you're going to be rolling these dice. All the dice have different symbols on them, and you can stop rolling dice whenever you want. The dice whenever you want. But if you ever decide to keep going and you roll a dice that you've rolled in the previous roll, you bust and you basically get nothing. Other than that, if you keep going and then you decide to stop, you get to take all of those actions. And it's just kind of like this sort of set collection game. Not as bad as I thought it would be, but not good enough to stay in the collection, I don't think. It'd be in that same family as Exploding Kittens and stuff like that. So if that's a game, those are games that you like, that kind of Exploding Kittens game, you might like that. Next is a sequel to a game I really, really like, and I was kind of disappointed by the sequel. This is Schotten Totten 2. And Schotten Totten 2 is just, in my opinion, just not as good as the original. The original is one of my favorite games. In the original, you're laying out these cards on your side of the battle line and trying to make the best poker hand, basically. And this is similar to that, but not as good. So this was one of those that the sequel came out, and I was very excited. Played it a couple times, and I'm like, I would never play this one instead of the original, so I'm not going to keep it. It's not a bad game, but if you have the original, I would see no reason to own this one as well. So maybe I'll get this to someone who doesn't have the original, and they'll be like, oh, this is a good game. Yeah, it probably is, but when you compare it to another game, it kind of loses that luster. Next, we have a popular two-player trick-taking game. This is Fox in the Forest. I love trick-taking games, and this is a good one, but it's very, very straightforward kind of thing. There's a couple special powers on cards, but for the most part, it's a very basic trick-taking game for 2 players. And the reason why I'm getting rid of this is because I have the sequel to this, which is Fox in the Forest Duet, which turns this from a competitive 2-player game to a cooperative 2-player game, which I like the Fox in the Forest Duet quite a bit, especially compared to this one. I'd still say it's a decent cooperative or decent trick-taking game. But I already have a couple 2-player trick-taking games in my collection that I enjoy more. One being Claim. I will never pick this game over Claim, so this one's never going to make it to the table, sadly. But still a good 2-player trick-taking game, I would say. Let's talk about another trick-taking game. This is Diamonds. I talked about Fox in the Forest being, a very straightforward game. This one's even more so, I would say, of a trick-taking, just straightforward trick-taking game where you're trying to get the most diamonds, basically. And that determines how you get diamonds is kind of determined by which suit you play and who won that suit. And all these suits have kind of sort of special powers, kind of. But yeah, very, very straightforward. If you're going to teach someone trick-taking, this is probably the one that I would recommend. That's a gamer's game still, but still really good, really fun. But because I've got 10 to 15 trick-taking games in my collection, and these 2 trick-taking games are ones that just don't hit the table, so I'm going to give them to people who maybe don't have any trick-taking games. They'll like them. On to another two-player game, Air, Land, and Sea. Now, this is a game that I really like. The only reason this is leaving the collection is because there is a newer version coming out with kind of cutesy art on it. And this one is fine, but it's not like much to look at. It's very straightforward. You just have these arenas. You're going to battle in air, land, and sea, and you're going to be playing cards on your side of the table underneath those cards of that arena that you're battling in. And the cards have different power on them. Like I think it's from 1 to 6, and whoever's got the most power at the end of the battle wins that battle. And you get so many points and stuff. Super good two-player game that I really, really like, that I don't really talk too much about on this channel. But I'll talk about this in a review before I get rid of this one, because the new one, I actually ordered it. I pre-ordered it. Should be here pretty soon. So I'll play it one more time just to do it and before I get rid of it. But good two-player game. I would definitely recommend if you're into fast two-player games. Here's another two-player game. This is The Blood of an Englishman. Yeah. So one player is playing as Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk. The other player is playing as the Giant. And you're going to have this group of cards, and the cards are like 1 through 9, and there's fee, fi, fo, fum cards, and there are treasure cards. Jack is trying to manipulate all these cards to make it go in ascending order onto his beanstalk, and then put treasure on top of that. Where the Giant is trying to manipulate the piles of cards to have them, I think it's either have all the fee, fi, fo, fum cards in the front of all the piles, or something, or in the same column. It's been a minute. But yeah. It's a good one, but one that's not going to stay in the collection, because I don't think it has a ton of replay value, but it's a neat game. One that I've had fun with, for sure. Excuse me, needing some water. Not used to talking this long. Next, we have a game. This is one of the games that I'm going to play again, and then I'm going to decide if it's going to leave the collection. The only reason I'm thinking about having this leave the collection is because it never hits the table. This is Campy Creatures. And this is one of those games where you have these cards, and you should play this card, and your opponent, if they play this card, the cards will interact with each other. But it's one of those games where I know you should play this card, but you also know that I know that you should play this card. So you're trying to outthink each other, and I enjoy that. But it's just one that doesn't hit the table. I like the theme. I'm a big horror guy, and this has all the campy monsters in it, your creature from the Black Lagoon stuff, and vampires, and werewolves, the Blob from back in the day. And the reason maybe why I haven't played it very much is because I played it 2 players. It wasn't as fun with 2 players. I'm going to try it at maybe a higher player count, see if that'll make it hit the table a little bit more. So yeah, Campy Creatures. Next, we have one more smaller game, and that is Dungeon Drop. This is the most unique game that I'm talking about today. In this game, there are all these cubes, and you are going to take all these cubes in your hand and put it above the table and drop them. And how those cubes are laid out, how they land, is how your map is going to be. And all the cubes are different things. Like some will determine which rooms are dungeons. You're going to triangulate certain colored cubes to make dungeon rooms. And you are also going to have like monsters in there. You're going to have treasures that you're trying to collect, gems. Very interesting game. We played it quite a bit when I first got it. Me and my kid and my nephew. They haven't requested it though for several months, so I think it's time that this goes to another owner. And I think there's some sequels coming out that maybe I'll try and check out, see if they like those ones too. Excuse me. All right. Now we're going to bigger games. Still, this one's kind of small box game, but it's actually a big game. This is Jurassic Parts. And in this game, you are going to be digging for fossils. And you have these hexagon tiles laid out on the board. And you are going to try and chisel out certain sections of these for you to get those dinosaur bones. And you can connect to other people's chiseled out sections before they chisel the piece completely off. And it's kind of this area majority game, because if you have the most of your chisels on a thing that is chiseling out that section, you get the majority of the pieces. Then the player who's got the next most chisels for that section will get half of that, basically. It's interesting. It just it doesn't hit the table. So, and I have got a friend who has this as well. So if I do really want to play it, he can always bring it and we can play it. All right, going on to some other games. These are all big box games now coming up, I think. Yeah. First, the classic Carcassonne. This is your tile laying game, that the mother of all tile laying games, kind of, where you're going to start and build out your board essentially by laying these tiles out however you want to, placing your meeples on certain features, trying to score those features. It's a fun game. I've played it a ton. I've probably played this game close to 100 times. And I broke it out recently just to try it again. But it's one that it's kind of over with for me. I recommend this game if you haven't played it, but I've played it so much that I'm not really wanting to play it anymore. At least, I don't need to own it. I've got 4 or 5 friends who own this. So if I really want to play it, they'll bring it to game night and we can play it again. But it's kind of outstayed its welcome. Almost kind of like Catan did for me, where you play a game so much, it's not that great anymore. Next, let's talk about a game I don't like. This is Alien: Fate of Nostromo. This is a Ravensburger cooperative game that I was really, really looking forward to. Why? Because it reminded me of Horrified, another cooperative game by Ravensburger that I really, really like. And so I was expecting that, and I like the alien theme. I love the alien theme. And it's the people, just like Horrified. And you're going to have cards that have the alien move just like Horrified. This game is ridiculously easy. So I played this game at 4 players. I thought we beat it easily. I played it at 3 players. Very easy. 2 players, even easier. I played this game solo, and I beat it in, I can't remember exactly, but it was something like 5 moves. Because you're going to get certain objectives at the beginning of this game, and some objectives you can just beat on the first turn of the game. It's way too easy. It makes me feel like they didn't playtest this enough. And yeah, I played it 4 times, and I know exactly where this is going. This is going to my nephew, because we were at Target the other day. And nephew, if you're watching this, I'm just kidding. Maybe. But we were at Target, and he pointed this out. He's like, I want to play this. He didn't know I had it, and he didn't know that I don't like it. He might like it, but I'll give it to him just to see if he likes it. So I'll play it again, just to show him how to play it. And yeah, but it's one that when I played it, I was very, very disappointed with. But maybe some of you will like it. Next, this is one game that I'm going to try one more time. This is Funko Verse. This is the Harry Potter one. And in this game, you play as these characters, and it's kind of like Unmatched, where there's a ton of different characters from all these different worlds that you can mix and match and play them. They all have special abilities. But the reason why I'm probably going to get rid of this is because of Unmatched. I think there's no reason to keep Unmatched in this game. And I love Unmatched, and I think this one is okay. This feels more kiddish. I should say, where the other one, where Unmatched, feels more strategic. It's a strategic card game. I'm not saying this is bad, but I will try this out. I've only played Funko Verse twice, and I've just never wanted to break it out again because it's like, do you want to play this or do you want to play Unmatched? And I always pick Unmatched. But I'll try it one more time, and if it still feels like it's competing with Unmatched and it's never going to win that battle for me, then I'll get rid of this game again. Alright, going to one game. Gearworks. One game that I feel like never got enough love from people. It has this grid of these cards that you are trying to have what is it, the majority? I can't exactly remember the minutia of this game. It's been a while since I played this game. I do know that I really, really like this game, and the reason why I'm getting rid of this is because I was sent a Kickstarter version of this with a playmat recently, and I still haven't gotten to it, but I'm going to. I really, really liked this game, though. I like the theme. I like steampunk kind of themes, and this kind of goes in that. I know you are building machines by getting these certain cards in here, or the gears on the outside, collecting those parts. Fun game, but I am excited to play the Kickstarter version of this. It's been a long time since I've played this, but I'm excited for the Kickstarter version, especially with that playmat. Aren't games always better when you have a playmat with them? Alright, going to another game, another popular game. This is Fantastic Factories. This is a dice worker placement game, and I like dice worker placement games. And this is a popular game in that genre, and I didn't like this game. It was almost too easy for me. There's not like a ton of spots you can do things with, but I have not played with any expansions like that. But I played it a couple times. I played a couple times solo, and then I played it multiplayer, and both of them I was underwhelmed. So I don't think it's a bad game, but I was underwhelmed by it. The dice placement games that I like are usually more involved, have a little bit more like strategy and in-depth. But it wasn't for me, so I'm going to get rid of it. Oh, next game might be the most controversial game that I'm getting rid of. This is a Kickstarter game that I just recently got. Well, not just recently, but within a couple months. I have playmats for this game. This is based on a game I really, really like. This is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. I love Terraforming Mars, and they came out with this, which is, they say, the card version of Terraforming Mars, a game that's supposed to be faster than the regular Terraforming Mars, which is my only complaint about Terraforming Mars, is that it's super, super long. This one said it was going to be faster, and I was like, yep, I'm all in for this one. And I played it, and it's not that much faster, and I much, much rather play the original. I know a lot of people like this one more than regular Terraforming Mars, but it wasn't for me. I played this one competitively. You can play it cooperatively, which I played a couple times. You can play it solo, which I played a few times. And yeah, I just rather play the original Terraforming Mars than this. So I know I can find people who will like this game, especially I have the individual player mats that come with it. I know I can find some people that will really like that. Here's a smaller game. This is a 2-player push your luck game, Blossoms. You are just building up these plants and deciding when you're going to trim those plants and take those plants and get those points for it. Push your luck game. It's fine. Nothing to write home about for me. So yeah, it's not going to stay in the collection. This was a pretty easy choice. It's not that memorable to me. Next, we have a game I think is a good game. This is Robin of Locksley, Contest of Thieves. This is a Uwe Rosenberg game, and in this game you have these objective cards on the outside of the board, and then you have the board, which is all these tiles of different colors. you have these pawns in here that you're going to be moving in a horseshoe, like a horse, like the knight in chess, where you go like up 2 and over 1, and then you collect that tile. All the objectives on the outside are like have these tiles or whatever. You can move as your meeple person as far along on the objectives on the outside as objectives you complete that turn. So it's got interesting choices. It's a game that I liked, and it's a game that my first week that I had this, my first 2 weeks that I had it, I probably played it 6-7 times, and I'm like, yeah, this is a good game. I like it, and I've never broken it out again. And that was several months ago, and I still don't have a real want to play this game. I might try it one more time before I get rid of it. I know I'm going to get rid of it just because it didn't have a ton of replay value for me, but I'll play it probably one more time. And if that person ends up liking it that I play it with, they can have it. All right. These next 2 games are games that I have not decided if I'm going to get rid of them or not. I'm going to play them one more time and see how that goes. This one, Planet. This is a game that I like, and it's very it's interesting. You have these balls, these earth-shaped balls, and they're all magnets. And then you have these tiles that are magnetized, and you can put them onto your ball, and you build your world however you want to build it, basically. You're going to be drafting these. And these cards in here have certain objectives. Like, you have to have the biggest area of ocean that's connected to, like, desert or something like that. Something similar. Ocean connected to desert. Something similar to that. It's interesting. It's definitely a gimmick game with that ball. It's a good game. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's a good game. I'm going to try it again just to see if it's going to stay in the collection, but I'm assuming it's going to be leaving. Next, we have a game that's in the GIPF Project series of games. This is Devon, and these are a series of abstract games. Devon is a good game in that series of games. The problem is, in this series of games, there's a game that I really, really like, and that's called a Yinch, and this isn't Yinch. So it's like, if I go to my abstract game shelf, and I see this game, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good game. Oh, but Yinch is there, I'm going to pick Yinch 100% of the time. So this one doesn't come off the shelf, even though I think it's a good abstract game. Very pretty pieces, just like in all the other GIPF games. But yeah, I'm not going to pick this game over Yinch very much ever. So there's no reason for me to keep it. But I will try it one more time just to make sure I'm sure. Next, we have a good game again. This is Sushi Roll. This is the dice version of Sushi Go. If you've ever played, when I put these box covers on, do I mean to put them on upside down all the time? If you've ever played Sushi Go, this is the exact same game except with dice. If you know how to play Sushi Go, you basically already know how to play Sushi Roll. You're just going to be collecting sets of things, and in this one you roll dice and pick one of those dice, and then you pass them, and you're just trying to collect sets, and different sets of things are worth different amounts of points. The reason why this is leaving is because I own Sushi Go, and I rate them the same. They're 7 games. I like both games. But Sushi Go is this big. Sushi Roll is this big. This takes up much more room for the same exact experience, and my shelf space has become precious to me. So it's not going to be staying in the collection, but I'll gladly give it to someone, and I know they'll enjoy it. Next is a game I was very disappointed with. This is Doctor Who, Time of the Daleks. This is a cooperative game in the Doctor Who universe. I am a huge Doctor Who fan. This might be my problem for this game, in that I am a big Doctor Who fan, and when games use IPs that I really like, tend to have like huge expectations for them, and maybe that's unwarranted, but it's just a game that I rated something like a 5.5. It's a cooperative game, kind of, uh, kind of not, which is kind of weird too as well. That hurts it. It's just when I'm gonna pick games, this one is never going to get picked, even though I liked it, and I kept it for a lot longer than I should have probably. Like I played it 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, wow, this is underwhelming at most. So yeah, it's a game I had high hopes for just because of the theme, but it didn't live up to that expectations for me, so I'm going to get rid of it. And hopefully one day we get a good Doctor Who game. Next is a recent game that I got. This is a 2021 game, and this is one that I will play one more time. This is one of like the 4 games that I haven't quite decided if I'm going to get rid of, but probably. This is The Night Cage. Now this is a good horror themed game where it's basically this dungeon crawl game. You have this board and you are going to be pulling out tiles as you explore this dark dungeon. All you have is this candle, so you can barely see anywhere around you, but you're going to be exploring these dungeons, and all of you, it's cooperative, have to find a key to use and then have to meet back at one of these portals to win the game. And it's got the stack of candle that's slowly burning out. Once you run out of those, it's basically game over by then. It's a game that I like the theme, I like the concept more than I like the game. Like I said, I'll play it one more time to see, but mostly I think it's going to leave the collection probably. But it's one that I'd recommend, especially during Halloween time. I think that's the only time I would break out this game, is during like October when we're getting ready for Halloween stuff. But yeah, that's The Night Cage, and that is the very last game that I'm going to be talking about today. This is probably the longest video I've ever made. But yeah, these are all games that I'm going to be culling, getting rid of out of my collection, with the exception of a couple that I'm going to try and see if they're going to leave. But yeah, that will end this video. I would like your guys' help on those ones that I'm undecided on. Do you guys think I should keep those ones, or maybe not? Either way, if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me, Shane, at the board meeting in the future. Hope you all have an amazing day. Take care, everyone.